I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual. 起立，面向佛堂，参加先鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，参加各位的传世一鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。
And welcome everybody. It's the 18th of June. Hard to believe that we're already midway through the month. The time just seems to fly by. It's also Father's Day. Not that any of you would notice my cover slide yet. And I'd like to wish all of you a good morning or afternoon or evening, wherever it is you happen to be. And as always, I'm awfully glad to see everybody on this morning. It's a wonderful thing. Before I get started on the topic proper, I got a call not an hour ago from one of my students at the Tai Chi school. I need to relay a message, if I may, for those of you who are inclined or would desire to, do this. One of my students' parents has wound up in the hospital on life support and is not expected to recover. And the family has asked me to ask all of you to hold them in your thoughts and prayers and good wishes. And so I told him I'd relay that message. Please feel free to do that. I know that I will. It's going to be a rough time for them, and anything that we can do to make that a little easier would be beneficial. So anyway, if you're so inclined, please do, and I'm sure they'll appreciate that. Like I said, today's Father's Day, and this one for me was the best one ever. My kids are all old enough now that they don't require a tremendous amount of parenting, just a little guidance every now and again. And this year in particular, they all got together and conspired to get me a portable turntable for vinyl record albums. I'm kind of old, and my music days go back pretty far, specifically to when 78 RPM records and 33 1/3 LPs were, what was available. I predate 8 tracks and cassettes both, and I way predate CDs. And I've often talked about how wonderful vinyl sounds. It is distinctly different from any of the digital media, which is very, very clean. Vinyl transmits some of the original imperfections in the transmission of sound that you just don't get with digital media. It's a kind of a deeper, different sort of a sound. It's something that I grew up with. And then the fact that my wife and kids went through the effort of finding this for me, I thought was just really cool. But that isn't why I chose to talk about Father's Day. While the turntable is a wonderful thing, I kind of thought about it for a little bit this morning. And yes, this talk came out of my heart this morning. And what struck me was that my wife and kids cared enough about me to put some significant thought and effort into finding something like this for me. And I wondered why. I go through my life day by day just doing what I do. I don't look at myself as being special. I'm not trying extra hard to win favor or make friends or any of that sort of thing, particularly not at home. What I've been known to tell my children is that I'd love to be your best friend, but I got to be your dad, you know. Um, and I've always done that. Um, I don't try to be hip or cool anymore. That just doesn't work. In fact, when I try to do that jokingly, I'm reminded by my 14-year-old daughter Samantha that just doesn't work. And I finally understand now why when I was younger, you know, it didn't work for my parents and other relations either. By the time you get to be my age, you're out of touch enough with the youth of society that there just is no being cool. That being said, I wasn't really trying to begin with, you know. I just do my thing. I am me and me fearlessly. Not everybody always appreciates that, but at least I don't have to look over my shoulder wondering about, you know, what I said to whom or why or what or any of that. And yet, my 14-year-old daughter still enjoys talking to me and still wants to have something to do with me. And I think that's just amazing, particularly since at her age, my other daughter thought I was the stupidest person on the face of the planet. And I was expecting to go through a second round of that as well. So I've been astounded that that didn't occur. Aaron, or my 19-year-old son, of course, has always kind of been stuck to my side. He and I are just best buddies. That's just how it works. And he still values my teachings and my guidance, which I also find somewhat amazing as he gets older. And I've thought a lot about why that is. I see so many families where that's not the case, where the children are rebellious and unattentive, and the parents are doing a lot of yelling and screaming and dictating, and where there's a lot of strife and conflict, and that just doesn't happen in our house. It just doesn't. And I think perhaps that more than anything, that has to do with my following the Tao teachings, and I'll tell you why. I have never been afraid to learn and adapt. I've always been of the opinion that any good and worthwhile information is worth having, and any uplifting information is worth incorporating into our lives. And so for many years, as Derek can attest, I've searched for this set of answers. And in attempting to apply the Tao teachings to my life and to allow those teachings to work their miraculous transformation in my life, I have evolved, not just spiritually, but psychologically and physically as well. And that evolutionary process has been pretty doggone miraculous. It's really been very neat. I have not had to work really hard to make the evolution occur. What I've had to do is keep my feet on the path and continue to try. I have not always been successful, and in fact, there are areas of my life where I'm still trying to master some of these teachings, some more successfully than others. But I think that's just the nature of living. I do know that over the years of following the teachings that I've mellowed out somewhat, that I'm significantly less demanding and a bunch less authoritative than I once was. A lot more willing to listen to my kids as well as to my wife, as well as other people, but here at home, the family in particular. Willing to consider other viewpoints and try to gather as much information as I can get. And because I don't want to get involved in a conflict, I'm largely unwilling to participate in an argument or a debate or a fight. And those things altogether have conspired to make me a much more relaxed and stable and calm individual, which I've come to discover has made my home much more peaceful. I think at the root of my children still wanting to have something to do to me or do with me in the midst of their adolescence is that transformation wrought by these teachings. That same transformation serves me in business and in the Tai Chi school and in my interactions with others because of the same foundation and the same transformative effect on my life. Because there's not a compelling need to be right, I don't feel a huge need to start an argument or a conflict at the office if somebody doesn't happen to agree with my point of view. That doesn't mean that I have to compromise my beliefs or the understanding of what ought to happen or what's the correct thing to do. What it does mean is that I don't have to get into an argument about it. And once again, I see this sort of thing happen way too often, where the net effect of the conflict is not a beneficial solution to a problem, but rather a detriment to at least one person's career and sometimes more than one person. And in one case, I absolutely know where one of those arguments resulted in somebody losing their job over it, simply because the person they were arguing with had the power and the authority to make that happen. So once again, the benefits of the Tao teachings are manifold. And by stepping back and observing a little bit, we can see, what they've done for us and how they affect our lives. The thing that we don't always see, the thing that I almost never see because I'm not really looking for it day to day, is the impact that my life has on other people. Like I said, I just go about my business day to day. I just do my thing. I get up, I go to work, I come home, I do dishes, I sweep the floor, we do laundry, we, do the typical family stuff. And then we go to bed and I get up the next day and we do it all over again. On Sundays, I get up and I do this. And, that's pretty much every Sunday. Most of my days are remarkably similar. And I don't spend a lot of time examining the past unless something goes wrong. and then I'm looking for, gee, what did I do that made this happen? But over time, as was evidenced today very clearly, it is apparent that what I do has a pretty significant impact on the people around me. I'm talking about my immediate family at the moment because that's the example I have in front of me right now. But I believe by extension that statement is true of everybody else that wanders through my life. That the way that I behave, my worldview, my spiritual view, my conduct, my sense of integrity, my moral compass, if you will, the choices and decisions that I make and the way that I respond to others has an impact on their lives that causes real effect. And we're not always aware of the effect that those things cause, sometimes because it doesn't happen in front of us, sometimes because people won't tell us, sometimes, like in my case, because, life carries on from day to day in a normal pace and we're not really looking, but it happens just the same. And when I stopped to really consider that, it was at the same time both really cool and kind of scary. I've said here before that our words and actions have weight, that they have consequences, that they have impact. But I have not often considered that just my day-to-day routine, the things that I do every day, rain or shine, also could have an effect on other people. I always just thought of those things as being as natural as breathing, as being something that we just do. But even the mundane, routine, day-to-day activities of our lives have a method of execution to them. They have a style to them. They have content to them that springs forth from the well of our personality based on what it is we believe, what it is that we feel, and how it is that we perceive the other person in the world. And so I guess, looking back, the fact that my kids still want to have something to do with me, the fact that they put forth this, what I see as being a above and beyond effort, the fact that they took time out of their life and their day to just appreciate Dad for a little while, says that maybe I'm doing something right. I also know, because I've seen this happen repeatedly, that the great Tao of heaven provides some latitude for those of us that are trying to walk the path. We don't always get it right the first time out. At least I don't. I haven't met anybody else yet who does either, but hey, you never know. In my case, I don't always get it right. But I find that as long as I'm being sincere in my cultivation and putting out the effort to refine and improve, that things tend to go okay anyway. That things tend to work out for the best. That karmic path, for some reason, seems to be beneficial to me, even if I fail dismally at achieving the stated goal. I'm not sure how that process works, but I'm thankful that it does. I need all the latitude and slack I can get, so any good luck that appears in my life, I'm not going to argue about too much. So, what do I tell you about the occurrence of this wonderful day? Well, the most important thing is that the Tao transforms everyone who wishes, who wants to be transformed. Don't ever lose sight of that. It's a wonderful thing. It's a blessing that we can't get anywhere else. And it isn't that hard to achieve. It's not that difficult to find. Lao Tzu says the path of the Tao is wide and broad and easy to walk, but the people like the shortcuts. Maybe if we just stick to that wide, easy to walk path, that transformation can occur the way it's supposed to, on its own and uninterrupted. And the other thing is that it's usually only in hindsight that we become aware or realize what the real impact of our lives is on other people. And I would suggest that when we look back over the path of our lives, that we want to see a picture of something that's beneficent and helpful and useful and benign and uplifting to others, and not one where we look at that picture and go, oh my God, what have I done? And even though we all have perhaps some days in our past where that was the case, you know, as long as we get out of bed breathing, we have the opportunity to change how that picture develops. Maybe today's a good time to do that. And once again, restating what Lao Tzu says, you know, that simple, easy, smooth path of the Tao is the way into that transformation. It is the way into the evolution of the self, to the emergence of the Buddha nature, to the refinement of who and what we are. I haven't finished the trip yet, and I'm already living proof that that is the truth. And I know several people who are far more refined than I am, and I can say the same thing about all of them. My older Tao brothers and sisters and the ordained masters are at a level of refinement that I have not yet approached. But I have a good example out in front of me to emulate, and so I'll get there someday. I'd encourage all of you to desire to do that as well. So anyway, that's my big Father's Day talk. I hope something that I said was useful and helpful to you, and I wish all the best for my students' family and for that situation as well. That's going to be a day for them. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill. Bill, in your life, you play several different roles. One of them, as you point out, is that you are the dad in your family. Another role that you play is that of the sifu, because you teach Qigong and Tai Chi Chuan. So, have you gone into the connection between being a sifu and being a dad?
Yes, absolutely I have. As well as into the spiritual connection between the two. That connection is very deep.
So, from the linguistic perspective, I want to give everyone a quick introduction. Sifu is two different characters. In English, we spell it S-I-F-U, of course. This actually comes from the Cantonese pronunciation of the two Chinese characters. In the more proper Mandarin pronunciation, it is 师父. So it is more SH than SHI than SI for the first character. So for those of you who may know the first term, Sifu with the S, but not know the second one, 师父 with the SH, now you know why in Kung Fu Panda's master is 师父 with the SH. So they were using the Mandarin pronunciation to say the master, 师父, Dustin Hoffman's character is the master, and then of course his master, Wu Gui is actually Chinese for turtle. So the two characters, specifically Shi, the first character, means teacher. Fu, Shi Fu, the second character, means father. So you can break it down and literally you get teacher dash father as the role of a martial arts master. What that means is that when you're in that position, when you have to teach something like Qigong or Tai Chi Chuan or other disciplines, you are not just there to dispense knowledge. You are not just there to drill the students. You also have to be a nurturing presence. You have to provide guidance, not just about that particular art or that particular science or discipline, but about living life and utilizing those skills and techniques as well. The proper utilization, the ethics, the morality behind it, the consideration, the spiritual aspects, as you point out, all of those are among the duties of Shifu, or Sifu, if you will.
I explain that to new students when they come in the door too.
Excellent.
Up here, there are a lot of chain schools where the only thing that's taught is technique, and where they take people from no rank to first degree black belt in 12 to 18 months. There's no involvement in the students' lives. So I explain to them that I'm not just their martial instructor, but I actually get involved in my students' lives, and that they can expect me to remain that way for quite some time.
Well, good for you. That's certainly the way it's always been taught, within Chinese culture throughout Chinese history.
Yes.
The instructors that you mentioned from these schools that churn out students, award black belts, etc. They're not actually Sifu. They're more like coach. They're coaches and trainers.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's just it's an important point, but people shouldn't learn some of the things that we do without a lot of understanding and the ability to show a lot of restraint. What a lot of those techniques are dangerous. They're not meant to be public domain.
Yes. So one example I think everyone knows on the proper behavior and attitude and mindset of a Sifu is the Karate Kid movies. Where basically you have the older practitioner of, in this case, karate. Later on, it's kung fu in the latest movie. But in all of those cases, a father presence, a father figure. Let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual, everybody. 起立，面向佛堂，持架3鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，3鞠躬，持架规则是1鞠躬，接班一鞠躬。Okay, everybody, we are done.